Today on Ask This Old House.
The railing and the balusters are just popping out. Ooh, anytime I expect for me to take a plunge to my death.
I'm going to show you how to fix a banister step by step.
And in this shower, hot is cold and cold is hot. But I'm going to straighten it out.
That's next on Ask This Old House.
So we've been having trouble with this bathroom for years. My husband is an extremely handy guy. He can fix almost anything in the house, so he tried his hand at plumbing and unfortunately made it a little bit worse. Now, to turn it on, we have to actually turn it off to get it to work. And everything else about it is also backwards. Hot is cold, cold is hot. It's been a real issue for us. I know that I need to get it fixed. I just don't know how.
All right, Shannon, what you've got here is a single lever, pressure balanced tub and shower valve. Now, the pressure balance feature is really important for safety. This thing can adjust for changes in water pressure in the system. Now, imagine if you didn't have it. Somebody flushes the toilet in the house, cold water pressure drops, and you got nothing left but super hot water coming out and you get scalded, okay? So this thing will adjust for that when it's working right. The other thing that's great about this is it's a name brand faucet. So it means that now or in the future, I can always get repair parts for this valve. Now, imagine if it wasn't. You got that valve roughed into the wall behind here. If you couldn't get the parts, what would you do? You'd have to open up the closet behind, or at the worst case, you have to rip out the entire bathroom into a remodel.
No.
Okay? So what I did is I went to the plumbing supply place, and I think I got the right parts. But before we do, let me go downstairs and turn the water off.
Okay.
Sometimes the hardest part of these valves is to figure out how to take them apart. But you know, somebody must have put it together originally. So there's almost always a handle screw right here underneath what they call the index. And there it is right there. And that is a Phillips head. Okay, good. So now that should come straight off. There we go. And this is the cartridge. This is the part that is the pressure balance and sets the temperature right here. Once that water stops draining, we're going to back this nut off to try and pull it straight up. All right. Sometimes I can loosen it by hand. Yeah, I can. Good. All right. If you can't, you can use pliers, but you try not to scratch it too much. All right. So now, this cartridge. Oh, look at this. I see something right off the bat. Look at right here. You see that notch right there? Mm-hmm. Do you see that little keyway right there? Yeah. Where do you think that keyway should be?
In the notch.
And you're not even a plumber. So this is off by about 90 degrees. So that's one problem. But I also see something else. First rule of plumbing, day one, is hot's on the left, cold's on the right, right?
Right.
You know that. Except in one place. And that is when you have back-to-back shower stalls that want to share the same hot and cold water supplies. Instead of having to repipe both those valves, the manufacturers make these cartridges so they can be reversed. And that simplifies the piping. Now let me pull this out. What does that say?
Hot side.
Hot side. And what side is that on?
The right.
And what's the first rule of plumbing?
It should be on the left.
Right. Your husband thinks the shower is over there.
Sounds like him.
So this has to be reversed this way so that hot's on the left. And then the keyway has to be set like this. Okay? So now that would probably repair this valve. We could just right now fix those two things, reinstall it. But I've got the new parts. We can upgrade the washers that are in the back. And I also brought a plate so I can really freshen it up. You want me to do that?
Oh, great.
All right, good. All right, so this escutcheon plate is held on by 2 Phillips screws. I'm going to give you that. All right, so now you can see the valve body. Now that's going to remain inside the wall. Now, but there are a few more serviceable parts inside here. There's a couple of washers, actually called seats and springs. Okay, so there's one service part, and another one on the hot side. All right, so here's a complete rebuilding kit for your valve. It has the escutcheon plate, nice and shiny. That looks good, huh? Cartridge, all the washers we need, a nice new handle. All right, so our rebuilding of this valve starts with putting in all these new washers and springs in the back side of that valve. Now this can be the tricky part of the installation. You don't want to drop these things into the wall or anywhere, and you also don't want to score the back side of that valve. So I use a pencil, put my fat little fingers in there. Okay, one down. There's 2. Good. Okay, so those seats and springs are going to make contact on the back side of this cartridge, the hot and the cold right there. Now we can put our cartridge in. There's the hot side. What side is it going to go on?
The left.
Yeah, very good. And there's our keyway right there. Going to go into the notch right there. And there we go. Good. With the cartridge installed, I can now install an O-ring and the lock nut to make the assembly watertight. How's that look?
Beautiful.
A couple of screws will hold that plate in place. Okay, there's our handle. There's off and there's on. Look at that, just the way it's supposed to.
Perfect.
All right, now I'm going to run to the basement and turn the water on. We can make our final adjustments. All right, water is back on. And so now, there's the on-off, and the water's coming out. But now, the inner dial right here is how we're going to set the temperature. And I don't want any more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit coming out of the shower head of the spout. Now, they actually make a temperature limit stop. You can see it right here. It's going to set against these keys. And that's going to prevent anybody from turning this water any higher than 120. I'll set it with my thermometer, and you guys will be safe and sound. Snap the final trim piece in. Shanna, give it a try.
Okay. Well, on is on.
Good.
Cold is cold. Let's try that. Hot is hot. Finally, my shower works exactly the way it's supposed to. Thank you so much, Richard.
I was happy to help.
So that device that you installed at the end there, that limit stop,
Yep.
now did you add that or do all of these fixtures come with one?
Every manufacturer has to provide some temperature limit stop. Now, in the valve we had a little cam that sat underneath here that limited how far we could open this. Other valves might have a brass screw right here that we can set to limit how far you can open the handle.
So if the maximum temperature coming out of that shower head is too hot, or if it's too cold,
Yeah.
you're saying it's better to make the adjustment right here in the valve than going down to the basement and going to the water tank.
Most people go down to the water heater and turn it way up. And it'll make some difference up here at the shower head, but it'll really make a difference at all the other faucets. Make them way too hot, and it'll waste a lot of energy.
No, that's great. I didn't even know this existed. Good to know.
This old railing has been giving me a lot of trouble. The railing and the balusters are just popping out. Anytime I expect the whole thing to give away and for me to take a plunge to my death. So I think it's safe to say that this is an accident waiting to happen. Tommy, can you help me out?
So, Shelley, you say your husband built the railing system?
My ex-husband, actually.
Okay.
And this is some of his best work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, it is definitely loose, and I can see why it's loose. This joint is opened up, and there's actually only one screw in it. Now, I could tighten this up and make it really strong so it wouldn't wobble.
Right.
Okay, but I see some other issues. Number one, the building code says the space between the balusters cannot exceed 4 inches, and I see some wide ones here. So I measure this one right here. We have 6 3/4. I measure this one right here, we have 4 1/4. Now these two are closer together, but it still doesn't meet building code. The next thing the building code says is the height of the railing. The height of the railing has to be a minimum of 34 to 38 inches off of the nose of the stair tread.
Okay.
All right? So if I measure right here on the bottom, holding my tape plumb, I've got 29 1/4. If I come up and measure this one, I have got 34 1/2. That's quite a difference.
A big difference.
So I think what we need to do is rebuild this railing system.
Go for it, Tom.
All right. And down here, looks like over that. Now, before we start installing our new stair parts, the first thing I want to do is patch the old holes for the old balusters. Our new balusters are going to be positioned differently.
Yeah.
To do that, I bought these oak plugs right here. They're round, 1 inch in diameter, about 3/16 of an inch thick, and they'll go right over the hole like that. Now, if I take my bit and I try to drill on top of that hole, the drill bit would wander. To stop it from wandering, I put a hole in a block, the right size. I'll center it over that hole, and now I will drive or guide the bit into that hole like that.
That's very clever.
Next thing I want to do is I don't want the drill bit to go too deep, so I made this gauge block right here. I'll put the drill bit through the gauge block, put the drill bit on the drill, tighten it down, and now when I drill through the gauge block, my drill bit will stick out at the right depth.
That's really ingenious.
All right, so first thing I want to do is clamp it on the end of the stair tread. Okay, I'm ready to drill the hole.
Wow, pretty nifty.
And line the grain up and tap it in. There you go.
Now, is it supposed to be a little bit raised, sticking up like that?
Yeah, I want it to be up a little bit, and then I'll just sand that down. All right, we've sanded the plugs nice and flush with the stair tread. I also sanded off a little bit of the finish on the end of this stair tread. Eventually, you're going to have these stairs refinished because it's wearing through.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, but for now, I'm going to spray on some spray-on polyurethane to seal up the ends. All right, we're ready to install your new handrail.
Great.
Now, I'm going to reuse the turnout.
Okay.
The first thing I have to do is recut this angle.
All right.
All right? Now, what I've done is I've taken a couple of scrap pieces of wood and I screwed them together. Now, that will hold our turnout at the right angle in both directions. I don't want it to be tilted this way and I don't want it to be tilted that way.
Another great idea.
Okay, so now that's held right on there like that. Now, I can't use the old handrail, so we have to use a new handrail. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to lay it right on the nosing of the stairs, just like that. Okay? Now, with my turnout on top of my block, I hold it down tight, and I simply slide it in until the top of the handrail matches the top of the turnout. When they're even, I can now transfer this angle to my turnout, and I'll cut it on my saw. Now we're ready to attach the turnout to the handrail. They're going to go together just like that. To attach them one to the other, we're going to use this bolt right here. It's a railing bolt. On one end is a wood thread. On the other end is a machine thread, so I can turn this nut right here to tighten the two pieces together. Now the first thing I need to do is I need to drill a hole in the end of the turnout and the end of the railing, and they have to be positioned exactly right. So what I did is I take a scrap piece of railing, cut it about 1/4 of an inch thick, and I positioned where I want to drill the hole. I'm going to put it right here in the end of the railing and drill a hole there. Now it's very important that I simply take the piece and slide it over like that and drill a hole in the end of the turnout. I'm going to hold the guide block even on the bottom of the railing and even on each side of the railing. Hold it as tight as I can to the turnout, keeping it flush. And now I'm going to take my drill and drill right through the pilot hole. Okay, now I'm going to take the guide block, and I said I can't turn it. I have to make sure it's positioned correctly. Slide it over, line it up, and I'm going to position that guide block right there, even on the bottom, center it in the railing, and again drill another pilot hole into the end of the handrail this time. Okay, now those two holes will line up exactly for the bolt. Now the next thing I need to do is drill a hole in the turnout for the wood thread. And that's a bigger drill bit. Okay, now that's tight. Now I have to drill 2 more holes. One more in the end of the railing, a little bigger than this hole, and another hole on the bottom of the railing so I can access this nut to tighten it. I want to drill the hole on the bottom of the railing first because it's the larger hole. All right, now let me show you how these two pieces are going to go together. I'm going to slide the machine thread right into the hole, just like that.
Now it makes sense to me.
Okay, now I have to put the nut and the washer on and tighten it up. Okay, now before I tighten it up, I'm going to run some glue on that joint and put two pieces together. Okay, now I can't get a wrench in there, so I'm going to use my screwdriver and just put a couple of taps in there with a hammer and tighten the nut. Now all we got to do is sand it up and we're in business. Okay, we're almost ready to install our railing, but before we do, I want to drill holes on the underside of the railing to accept our balusters. Now what I did first is I located our balusters on our stair tread, each one of them using this blue tape. So I marked it and I centered it on the wall. I divided each baluster up equally over the run, and I made sure that the space between the balusters didn't exceed 4 inches. Now, I have to transfer all of these marks to the handrail. And to do that, I'm going to hold the handrail on top of the stair nosing, put my spacer block in here, and hold the railing tight against the spacer block. Now, if you can hold down on that railing so it doesn't slide,
Sure.
I'll transfer the marks up using my square. And I'm going to put it on this mark right here. And I'm going to transfer that mark right to the side of the railing. I'm going to do it on every one of them. Okay, now we've located the holes for the stairs and for the underside of the railing, and now we can drill them. Now I'm ready to drill the holes on the underside of the railing, and those holes have to be on an angle, so the balusters will be plumb. This cut right here is plumb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the piece of the railing that I cut off as a guide for my drill bit. I hold it like that. I get my hole started. Once I get started, I bring the drill bit down, holding it until it's parallel with the block. Now your old newel post was too short. I have a new one that's longer. To install it, instead of notching out the newel post, I'm going to notch out the stair tread using my oscillating saw. Tap the newel post into position. Now I want to check it for plumb in both directions. Okay, now that it's plumb, I'm going to pre-drill 2 holes. I'm going to drill a large hole for the plug to countersink the head, and a smaller drill for the size of the shaft. And that's not going anywhere. All right, I've got construction adhesive in each hole to hold the balusters in position. Now, if you want to pass me the balusters, starting with that one right there,
Sure.
I'm going to tap them in place. Okay, Shelley, you want to hand me that handrail there?
You got it.
Okay. Now we have the tricky part. Lay this on here. Work our way up. All right, Shelley, we're all screwed off the top. Why don't you give that a try?
Okay. This is rock solid, and it looks great. Thank you so much.
It was
this
my
is
pleasure.
wonderful.
Well, if you have a question, you let us know. Maybe we'll be at your house next time. Until then, I'm Tom Silva for Ask This Old House. Made a big difference, didn't it?
Sure did.
Look at how nice they look.
I can't believe what a difference, and it just feels really safe.
Next time on Ask This Old House.
I'll show you how to mount this range hood and vent it properly through the wall.
I'm going to give this old water heater new life. Let me show you how your old fitting failed. You can see the fitting right here.
And we'll ask, what is it? 8 tentacles. It's green. And the giveaway right here is the control panel right here. What is it?
I got it. I can give it away. That's next time on Ask This Old House.